sing His Robes for Mine. We only sang the first verse when we concluded the service this morning, so we'll sing all the verses. Let's stand. The text will be up there because it's in the hymns, modern and ancient, not the one in the seat there. So let's sing it together, His Robes for Mine. Seated. This would be a good devotional exercise. If you can get the text of this song, obviously the doctrine of salvation that it is about is the doctrine of what? Which doctrine of salvation is this song really emphasizing? The doctrine of justification, right? But a good devotional might be to take each verse, work through it, and see the other doctrines of salvation that are mentioned in there. So maybe you'll do that this week. You can get the text on the internet. What a powerful song because it's rich in doctrine. It's what makes a good song for the church. All right, just a couple of announcements. Sort of a repeat of what we said this morning, but reminders are needed. So annual meeting is the 26th, and the summary of the proposed budget is on the desk out there. And if you would like the details, you could email the church office, and we'll email those to you. That gives us 2 weeks to look over that, and then it'll be presented on the 26th, and we will vote as a church on that budget. We'll also be voting for offices, and so I'll mention probably next week what offices those are, the things that entailed in holding those offices, so we're aware of that when we vote as well. And then July 3rd, 50th anniversary, 2 very important things. Make sure you sign up for the meal, and the list is out on the table. I think we need to add pages to it already. That's good. But again, to be good stewards of the Lord's money, we want to get a count of how many adults will be eating and how many children. I said under 12, but we say 12 and under. Then that'll help us as we communicate that number with Ted, and he will prepare well for the size of our group. All right, if you haven't yet had your name or your family name written on one of the leaves for the timeline, be prepared to do that next Sunday. All right, there is a handout for tonight, and if you didn't receive that, if you put your hand up, we'll get you one. I can never find Walt miss somebody. He gets everybody. That's awesome. He's good. He does his job very well. So tonight, as you can tell, we're going to talk about dealing with stress. Anyone have any stress in their life right now? Any stress in your... All right. So, very practical thing for tonight. Obviously, everyone deals with stress. There's an ongoing level of stress probably in our life on a daily basis. Most people experience a regular amount of stress on a regular basis. So normal life events create stress. Do even positive events of life create stress? Yes, they certainly do. So give me some stressors. Just shout them out. You don't have to wait for me to call on you. A stressor, things that bring stress into our life. What are? What? A sick relative, someone that's close to us that's going through health issues, right? Financial struggles. What? Traffic. Yeah. And then what did we talk about? Was it 2 or 3 weeks ago? When there's traffic, we tend to get what? Angry. We did that. We're all good now. We have no anger in our lives.
No road rage.
No road rage. Yes.
Struggles within the extended family.
Yeah, problems within your family or even extended family issues. What? Job changes. Yes.
Current events, news.
Oh yeah. Don't watch too much news. I watch a lot of news. I'm interested in what's going on, but lately it's been I can do without it today, because it seems like all the news is bad news, but it's not. Not all news is bad news. We need to focus on the good news. What is the good news? It's called the gospel, right? All right. What else? Death in the family. Mm-hmm. Well, give me some positive stressors. That job change is probably positive, right? A new baby. Yes, my daughter-in-law is about to enter her 3rd trimester. I'm all excited about it. No stress for me. Stress for her and my son. Yes.
A new job or a house move?
A move to a new home. Just ask the Nicolays, right? Moving is stressful. I moved a quarter mile. Just a quarter mile. That's all. It was stressful. Natalie moved all the way from China. Where is she? She sold all her possessions and then moved all the way from China. So
when you're planning a meal to feed 120 people,
when you're planning a meal to...
an hour away from tea time.
Right.
That's stressful.
Right. Okay, I think we hit a lot. The ones I have in my list as regular, normal life events. Deadlines. It could be job, it could be a deadline you put on yourself at home, deadline to reach a goal that you have, job interviews, all kinds of stressors related to job, to your work life. Even what happens in a marriage from day to day. There's stressors, and no matter how good your marriage is, right? Deaths. Is travel a stressor?
No.
My poor daughter, she seems to have this cloud over her head when she travels, and she's been literally stranded 3 times in airports, to the point where she just doesn't want to fly by an airplane anymore, unless it's to see this guy that she loves now. That she'll make a flight for. But travel. Appointments, finances, and how about this one? You ready?
No.
No, you don't want to hear it. You're supposed to be good now.
Too much stress.
Coronavirus, right? Thankfully, it seems to have sort of gone away. But was it a stressor? It was a daily stressor, wasn't it? I think, I don't know how many days, Betsy's up there, how many days in a given week did we not talk about coronavirus when we were in the thick of it? And it lasted for a long time. It really hasn't completely gone away. I just don't talk about it anymore because it's mostly gone away. Right? Okay. I don't work at, yeah. That's not Joy's reality. That's not, any nurses in here, that's not your reality. It's still around, no doubt. I don't think it's as potent, but what do I know, right? So, remember what I say, everyone's got an opinion about coronavirus, and it is, most of them are opinions, so. All right, so the levels of stress associated with those kinds of events do not usually cause ongoing problems, right? Those are normal stressors. Okay, we maybe feel them, but they're pretty common, they're pretty normal. However, any such event or a combination of events can become highly stressful on occasion. So you know the terms acute and chronic, right? What would acute stress be? If it's acute, how would you may have to ask I don't put the nurse under pressure here. What's acute? It is, okay, it's temporary, but it is severe. If it's acute, it's severe.
Like an automobile.
Chronic indicates what? It's longer lasting. So it may be lower level, but it could be long term. And either one of those can be very damaging, even debilitating. So let's define stress. Pressure, force, strain in our lives, pressure in our lives, strain in our lives. Stress is what you feel when you have to handle more than you are used to. That might be the stress. You have to handle more than what's typical. When you're stressed, your body responds almost as though you're in danger, right? Your body makes hormones, and those hormones speed up your heart. They make you breathe faster. They give you a burst of energy sometimes. All that I got from good old WebMD. The source of all health knowledge, right, Joy?
Better than Wikipedia.
Yeah, it's slightly better than Wikipedia. I think WebMD is pretty informative. It's just the doctors and nurses, when the patients come in and say, I read on WebMD, and they're like, please, we know what we're talking about. Forget all that stuff, right? To have fun with that. Okay. Stress is a human condition of tension and upheaval brought about by one's reaction to an internal or an external situation. And it can be positive. It can be a positive thing. It can be a negative force. Now, studies have found that the following are the most stressful situations of life. And some of these are ones you mentioned just a few moments ago. Death of a loved one, especially death of a spouse. You know, my heart sort of broke for the Tomlinson family when the relative lost her husband and her son within a few weeks. You talk about acute, right? It's severe. Divorce or separation of a marriage, personal injury, illness, marriage problems, problems at work. Pregnancy is on that list. It's a stressor. Financial problems. So a lot of those we already mentioned. What are some typical symptoms of stress? Shout those out. Symptoms of stress. Headaches, certain, they say, Joy, you shouldn't have opened your mouth about being a nurse. I keep looking at you. They say there's a tension headache, right? And it's a certain place. I don't know where it is. But there's a tension headache. How many have ever experienced it? My hand's up, right? All right, what else? Symptoms of stress. Kids?
I don't know there's a symptom. They certainly cause.
Kids. Yeah, Stacy.
Overeating or undereating.
Yes. Did you have to say that? Are you trying to convict me? Listen, I know this about my life. It's not really a conscious thing when I'm doing it, but I eat to relax. How many of you eat to relax? And if you're relaxing too much, you're in trouble, right? Eating is a comfort. It is for me. So thanks, Stacy. Put me under conviction. Yeah, and it could be overeating, it could be undereating, right? Not eating enough. Yes,
You were
Jim.
looking for symptoms?
Symptoms.
Exhaustion is one.
Fatigue. Yeah.
Irritability.
Irritability. Yes. Yes. Indecision. Yeah. Okay.
Stomach issues.
Stomach issues. Yes. Even nausea. Right? We've all experienced that. Increased heart rate, a headache. How about the old stiff neck and tight shoulders? Men, your wife ever come up to you and put your hands on your shoulders and say, "Ooh, what are you tensed up about?" Right? Or the other way around. Back pain can be. Even sweating. Upset stomach, that was mentioned. And then, who said irritability? Was that Chris? Stressed out person may feel cranky, frustrated, jumpy, irritable, and worried. We already covered worried. That was weeks ago, right? So the origins of stress, situations over which you have little or no control, could be the start of stress, right? Unpleasant situations or circumstances. Expectations placed on you by others, expectations placed on yourself. Uncertainties of life. You ever think about those? Maybe there's something going on in your life and you're not sure what's going to come about, what the outcome will be. Sort of already said this, but the standards you set for yourself, your personal lifestyle. How about your failures? Your own shortcomings, not being able to meet your own expectations. So your attitude toward any of those things. Unaccomplished goals and plans. So I'm almost getting redundant, almost saying the same thing, but in a couple of different ways here. How about procrastination? Does that bring stress? I wish my students realized that. Summer break now, but I wish they felt stress when they weren't prepared for class, some of them. Overscheduling. How many of us have ever done that? Ever overschedule? Yeah.
Rose does it all the time.
Rose does it all the time. Yes. All right. Are there dangers with stress? Yes. Again, stress is normal. Stress can even be useful. It can be helpful if it motivates that student to study or to get their project done. So it can help. if you need to work hard or react quickly, finish a task on time. That kind of stress is helpful. But if it happens too often or it lasts too long, then it can have harmful effects, of course, right? And then we see these symptoms that we talked about. I don't think one that we didn't talk about was trouble sleeping. Maybe getting to sleep. Many of you know I have trouble in that I wake up in the middle of the night. I really don't think it's stress. I think it's something, because I can go to sleep quickly, but there's something that's going on. I wake up early. I actually have to get out of bed, otherwise I lay. You ever do the torture, just lay there and torture your mind? It's not necessarily what's going through your mind. You just cannot go back to sleep. And so I get up, and then after about 40 minutes of reading or doing something, I can get back to sleep. But sometimes not being able to sleep is because of stress. Can stress even weaken the immune system? We'll ask Joy. Joy, can stress weaken the immune system? Yes. Because of all those things we listed, right. And of course, you weaken your immune system and you make it harder to fight off disease, because that's what our immune system does. If you already have a health problem, Joy, can stress make it worse? Yes, okay. Moody, tense, even depression. Does it affect our relationships? Mm-hmm. Yeah, when you get irritable, right, Chris? That's the one he mentioned. Not that Chris is irritable. The one he mentioned. So over time, it can negatively affect, as we said, your immune system. It can affect your heart. Stress is linked to high blood pressure. Okay, in fact, how many of you have had your blood pressure taken twice or 3 times in sort of close proximity, and you got a really high number and then a lower number, and then the nurse or doctor said, what's going on here? You nervous about something? Maybe the stress is being in the doctor's office or the emergency room, right? And then they take it later and you calm down. So yes, it can increase your blood pressure. So it causes all kinds of physical problems. Affects your muscles. We mentioned that. The tense neck and shoulders. Stomach problems. I think we've covered enough, right? Even skin problems. Acne becomes worse when one's under stress. Psoriasis can be made worse by stress, if you believe the commercial that's on for those drugs for that. So that leads us to this then. How to respond and manage stress. How to respond and manage it. Okay, we're going to talk about contemporary or secular methods, and then we'll talk about biblical methods, because that's why we're here, to handle this problem biblically, right? So contemporary methods, common sense ideas even to manage stress. Give me a response to manage stress that you don't have a Bible verse with. In other words, it's just a common sense thing. Jim? Exercise. Is that true? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Kim?
To take an action.
What?
To take an action.
Takes.
What is causing the stress? Just start with some kind of action.
Yeah, actually try to deal with it, right? How can I relieve it? Yes.
Deep breathing exercise.
Okay, just taking a breath, right? Relax. Some of this we could go too far with it, right?
You mean
And get to
hollering,
some
screaming?
new age things. That's not what I'm wanting you to talk about. Yes.
Classical music.
Playing music, certain kinds of music will reduce stress. We had a dentist in Michigan, and he was a University of Michigan grad, smart guy. His dentist practice was called comfort dentistry. There's nothing comforting about being in the dentist chair, is there? But that's what he tried for. That was his goal. And so he had this idea that you put headphones on the patient. Well, you ever plug your ears and eat cereal, Captain Crunch?
Yes.
You know what it does, right? It just,
Yeah.
and that's what it was like. He'd put that. I'd finally say, no, I don't want that. But it was interesting that a lot of the things that he thought were going to help weren't all that helpful. But anyway.
Pastor, are you looking for the new age ways that?
No, I'm not looking for the for the. Yes. All right. Find ways to. How about trying to even avoid it? Are there some stressors we can avoid? You ever make someone's problem yours when you don't need to? Okay, we want to help people. What, Joy?
I was thinking worry and procrastination are two examples of that.
Right. So we can go back to the topic of worry. So find ways to reduce it. Learn healthy ways to relieve stress, reduce its harmful effects. And this has been mentioned, when you cannot avoid it, learn to relax. Maybe it's managing your life better would reduce some stress, right? Manage your life better, your schedule better. Maybe it's being better organized will help you with stress. These are practical things. Maybe it's just talking to someone about your stress. Maybe someone can help you with your stress. Maybe the children, you can tell the children to knock it off so that you don't have that stress, right, Randy? Yes.
Dr. Wellner used to say, learn to respond but not react.
Good.
He used to tell us when we were teachers.
Yes. I'm good at reacting. But thoughtful thinking it out first, that's called responding. That's a different story, isn't it, right? Okay, so now let's deal with the biblical methods. I guess I should give you a chance at that. Now give me a biblical method of dealing with stress. Prayer, right. That should be the one that just automatically we think of it. Pray about it, yes.
Reading the Word, and especially about perhaps a similar situation.
Right. So let's take what Juan said. Let's get the word out. Let's get your cup of coffee in the morning, and let's get the music, Christian music there, and maybe that helps. And start your day that way. Maybe that'll help with your stress, right? Taking it to the Lord. All right, what else? Biblical method.
Prioritizing in other ways of your family and the Lord and His church.
Right. Prioritizing things God's way. Good. That's good.
Pray about it.
Pray hard. Is that what I heard?
Pray about it.
Pray about it.
Pray about it. Yes. Okay. So let's go through this list. I think first of all, just recognize that everyone has problems and challenges to face. That's part of life. Okay? Stress is part of life. Let me give you some references. I'll quote some of these verses. We won't have the time to look them all up, but you could write them in your notes. So with that point, you can write down 1 Peter 4, 12 and 13. Now in context, Peter's really talking about suffering that's brought on by persecution. But I think you can make an application here. So 1 Peter 4, 12 to 13, Peter says, don't think it strange concerning the fiery trial which is to try you, as though some strange thing has happened to you. Stress is a fact of life. It's a part of life. Okay? Recognize it. You're going to have stressors in your life. Secondly, recognize God's providence over the details of your life. So you can write down Genesis 50 and verse 20. Again, the context there is Joseph has told his brothers, you meant this thing for evil. You meant this as evil against me, but God meant it for good to save many people. So recognize God's providence. What does God have in store for me in working through this difficulty, this problem? Also, 1 Corinthians 10:13, that context is the temptation to sin, but there's still a principle there. No temptation, no stress has come, but that which is common. You probably don't have a stressor in your life that nobody on the planet has ever had before in history, right? So recognize those details of life. Goes along with that, but understand God's purpose for the circumstances that are in your life. He allows things in our life. Romans 8:29 is the passage for that. That passage that seems to be, Romans 8:28 and 29 seems to be one that most of us have memorized. So in your mind, you probably can start quoting that, right? Where God works all things together for a purpose. And that purpose is to do what? Conform us to the image of Christ. Even stressors, Pastor Rob, even stressors, right? Hebrews 12, verse 11. The context there is chastening. So it's God's discipline in our life, but I think, again, a principle. It yields the peaceable fruit of righteousness. It trains us. What can your stress teach you? How can God use it? And then, not that one of the last ones is last, but should be first. Pray. Ask God for wisdom to deal with the stressful situation. Can we even thank God for pressures? What would James say about that? Would James say we can thank God for it? We can even count certain things as joy, because God's at work in your life. James 1:5 is the passage for that. Thank God for the pressures and ask Him for help to endure them. Lord, give me strength, give me help to endure this. And then I think Kim said this, just plain old doing something to address it. Sometimes we have stress because we don't address it in our lives. Try to solve the problem, address, or at least address the situation. All right. Now let's go to other practical tips to handle stress. And we'll start with these categories of life. For the physical, this has already been said, get enough rest and exercise and eat a healthy diet. So write those three things in a row: rest, exercise, diet. Folks, sometimes we just do take on too much. And I don't think God is pleased when we overdo it. And there's a real struggle there, a balance. I can't remove all the stressors in my life, but maybe there's some things I just need to realize, you know what, it's time to rest. Exercise have benefits beyond just the physical. It helps the mental. Scripture even talks about bodily exercise profits. Now, in comparison to exercising spiritually, it profits little, but it still has profit, right? All right, I'm under conviction there. Keep your weight under control will be helpful.
Pastor, I went with dance for that one.
What?
I went with dance for
Dance?
Yeah, it had
Jump
D,
up and
and the best I came up with was dance.
Oh, you're trying to guess the blanks.
Yes.
Yes, you were wrong.
Okay.
That's what the teens do. You're a teen at heart, aren't you? They always try to guess the blanks ahead of time when I teach. Yes. Because I gave the first letter. Is that what I did?
Yeah.
Did you get rest right, Lee?
I did, sir.
Did you get exercise
Yeah.
right? All right.
Exercise and dance.
Okay. Well, diet. Let's diet. Dance is part of exercise as long as you're... Anyway, let's move on before I start getting silly here. Being unhealthy or out of balance in those areas does make it difficult to manage stress. Stimulants can contribute to higher levels of stress. Like what?
Coffee.
Even coffee. Yes, I love to tease her about her accent. Even coffee. And I drink... I'm going to have to make my own list tonight when I get home of things that put into practice my own message here. Stimulants, sugar can contribute to higher levels of stress. But physical exercise is a natural way to expend tension, even release tension. Here's a quote. Numerous medical studies have confirmed the necessity of exercise for maintaining good health, as well as the long-range benefits of exercise to mental and physical health. Not only does it keep our bodies functioning well, but exercise helps to reduce stress and thus lessens the risk for illness. If you're here early in the morning on the property, you'll see my wife either power walking or a very slow jog. She's been doing that consistently for months. And she said to me the other day, she said, it's really helped to relieve some tension and stress. I feel better, not just from the physical aspects of the exercise, but just the, I don't know what you call that, but because she was dealing with the children in her class. She says, you know, she actually said this, I've been less irritable with my students. Just starting my day with that exercise. It really does work. All right, so there's the physical aspect. Now the personal. Consider whether the benefits of enduring stressful situations are worthwhile. So are there some stressors that come because of things we're trying to bring into our life to bring benefit? And what I mean then is that benefit really worth the stress? So what are you talking about, Pastor Rob? Maybe that benefit is the change of the job for the increased salary. But the salary from the stressful job does it really have more value than the cost to your health and your family? It's just an example I tried to come up with. Okay, so you know, would the more salary be beneficial for your family situation? Yes, but if the job has all that much more stressful, is it really worth it? Okay, some things have more value than salary, increased salary. True? Yep. Trying to think of another illustration here. Stressful relationships. Is the grief generated by stressful relationships worth enduring? I'm not telling you to end relationships, but working through those, okay? And then remember that the cause of the stress may be inconsequential. Remember we talked about worry? Sometimes we worry about things that may never happen. I think a lot of worry's that way. I'm concerned that something's going to happen, but it never does. But boy, I sure worked myself up over it. So remember, the cause of the stress may be inconsequential. The pressures of winning or losing a game or a contest. Meeting an upcoming deadline. Fulfilling all your plans on vacation. How many people make vacations stressful? You ever had that family member? You know, they have an itinerary, and we are going to make sure everything on the itinerary has been accomplished. Meanwhile, the family's like, I just want to go home. You know, Dad, do we really have to go to the 5th museum today? You know, yeah.
I've read that the benefit of a vacation is the anticipation of it.
Yes, anticipating it might be the... Charlie and Sue, did you have a good vacation? Did you relax? Rest? Was needed? Good. Or how about this, you know, the lack of preparation for a vacation. Then you get back to the office and the inbox is like overflowing, right? So how do you deal with that? What do you do? Delete. Okay.
Vacation.
What's the Staples button? What is that? The easy button? Press the easy button. Or have someone wonderful that helps you, like Betsy up there. All right. Get a motorcycle. Ride them, is there anything wrong with things like that?
It stresses
No.
your spouse.
Now, they could become out of priority. Pastor Rob, where's Pastor Rob? He's on the motorcycle tomorrow. Where's Pastor Rob? He's on the motorcycle. Okay, that's a problem. But I do get relaxation out of that. And I'm thankful for a wife that lets me. Sometimes she gets on the back. It's fun too. What's the worst thing that could happen if you change plans?
Nothing.
We get all, maybe nothing, right? What's the worst thing that could happen if you fail to meet that one particular goal? Now, if your boss set it for you, that could be a problem. You regularly fail to meet the goal. But what's the worst can happen if you fail to meet the goal? How about stressing out over minor events? Okay. Don't allow yourself to be stressed over minor events. So the old saying, don't make a mountain out of a what?
Molehill.
Molehill is a good advice. Don't make a mountain out of a molehill. Take some time to be alone. Take breaks. Take breaks. Cultivate spiritually rewarding relationships. Spend time with people who help you relax and enjoy yourself. Hopefully, if you're married, that's your spouse, right? But good friendships are wonderful.
D groups.
D group friends. Thank you for mentioning that, right? I mean, there's some things that you're not telling your wife every day because you don't want to add to her stress. Go to D group. Tell the guys in your D group. I'm not being silly.
No, it's true.
Ladies, same thing, right? There's a lot of things I don't tell my wife because I know it'll add a burden to her that she doesn't need. It's mine, not hers. You know, some things she does help me with when I share them, but there's a lot of things I don't. Ecclesiastes 2:24 says, "If there is nothing better for a man than he should eat and drink, and that he should make his soul enjoy good in his labor. This also I saw, that it was from the hand of God." And then let's quickly run through behavioral ones, and then we'll take some time to share some things and pray together. Behaviorally, prioritize your time. Take breaks during stressful tasks. Focus properly. Focus our attention on the needs of others. Does that really help? It does. Get your mind off your own problem. Someone's got a bigger problem than you. Right? Maybe you made a mountain, it's a molehill, but you have a friend that really has a mountain. I mean, they really have a mountain. Help them. Get your mind off your little problem. Right? Help someone. Focusing the attention on the needs of others reduces your own personal stress. Delegate responsibility, if you're in the position to be able to do that. How many of you don't have to raise your hand or admit this, but you have maybe a boss or a coworker that just can't delegate, but they're always uptight and nervous and under stress, and it's like, you have 3 people that work with you. You actually have a position of authority there, or superiority, if we could use those terms in that way. Get help.
Yes.
Delegate responsibility. Don't try to do everything yourself. Enlist help. And then the spiritual, which is really where good place to end. There's nothing wrong with us being very practical and dealing with common sense things in the church, but we better get to the spiritual solutions. Before I do that, yes.
So on behavioral, you were saying delegate. Sometimes you're in a position where there's no one to delegate to, caring for an elderly family member or parent, or someone sick in your home if you're in the position of responsibility. But you need to kind of be humble and ask for help.
Yes, thank you for mentioning that. That's a good illustration. My sister, she really is the one in our family that cares for my mother through dementia or Alzheimer's, whichever one it is. And there's been times when she'll call me and I just listen because she's dealt with this. My mother got violent a couple months ago with people, other people in her facility. And she was actually, the facility almost threatened to take my mother out of that particular section. And so my sister was very upset about that and nervous. And so she called me, and I just knew it wasn't time to give her advice. Sometimes people don't need advice so much as they just need someone to listen to them. And there have been times when I told her, I said, you're taking on too much. In fact, just very quickly, when it started, she made a promise that she should not have made. Let's be careful about the promises we make, right? She promised my mom, I will never put you in a home. And I had to tell my sister that she can't keep that promise. I said, I know you made it, and you meant it when you said it to Mom. I said, but this is a promise you cannot keep right now because you can't care for Mom. It's beyond your ability to care for her in your home. And thankfully that did help her. She realized, I can't keep this. He's right. This is too big for me. So that's an excellent example. Getting help. So, renew your mind. What do we mean by that? We're talking about Romans 12, mind renewal. Meditating on the Word of God, spending time studying God's Word. Rest and recuperate, especially on the Lord's day. Especially on the Lord's
I went with dance again.
Especially on the Lord's day. Notice sometimes when we start our worship, I say, hey, let's try to clear our minds. Let's forget about last week. Let's forget about what's coming up this week. And let's just focus on the Lord this morning. Those times are important. Pray for wisdom in organizing, planning, and use of time. And then finally, trust God for the resources to handle the stress. Let me close by reading this. Richard Swenson, the book is titled Margin, suggests that people tolerate too much stress in their lives. Many are overloaded and overextended by work, family, health concerns, bills, etc. The pressures and influences of modern culture have brought unnecessary stress into life. True? I think that's true. People are tired, frazzled, anxious, depressed, mostly because they overload themselves with unnecessary activities and expectations. What people need is some margin, that is, some leeway or extra space planned into daily living. Instead of living on the edge all the time, people should maintain a cushion or a reserve available just in case things don't go as planned. Swenson defines margin as the space that exists between people and their personal limits. This space gets squeezed out because of the stress associated with modern living. Can technology be a stressor? I mean, sometimes, my wife and I will be looking at social media too long, too much. And, a lot of the friends that I have in Facebook are students that I had back in 1988. And I see them now as adults living lives that, they're debauched. And I can get all worked up about because they were one of my kids, And start looking at that stuff and say, I don't need to focus on that. I don't need to concentrate. I've got a church family now and a youth group now to help folks and not to worry about every past situation. Travel, materialism, entertainment. Margin can be restored through contentment, simplicity, balance, and rest. Learn to resist overcommitment. Refuse to overburden your life with non-essentials. Swenson suggests we maintain margin in 4 areas: emotional energy, physical energy, time, and finances. Instead of pushing yourself and your family to the edge, scale back, simplify, relax, and be content. That's helpful. All right, yes, you want something to say something there?
I guess with this subject here, I look to the Lord Jesus and his example. Just recently we talked about what was Jesus doing in the storm on the sea? He was
Right.
sleeping. Our measurement of time is, most all of it has to do with our solar system, right? The day and the month and all of that, except the week. The week was spiritually or instituted by the Lord, right? There is no physical.
Yes. There's a day we're supposed to
There's a day
rest.
where we're supposed to.
Yeah, that's good insight. Now I'm forgetful. What was the first thing you said there, the very first where you started with that?
It started with our examples of the Lord Jesus.
Thank you, Jesus. Yeah, in our study of the Gospel of Mark, there are times when Jesus, I've been saying he slips away. The reason I'm saying he slips away is because this mob that's always there, there's this crowd, the multitude's always there. And he slips away, and sometimes he tells his disciples, let's go. And the word solitude is in Matthew. And Jesus prayed. If Jesus needed to pray, how much more do we? You don't understand what I mean by needed to pray. If Jesus prayed, should we not pray? Yes.
I think it's important to remind ourselves that Jesus brings peace. Because in our study of Mark, he stilled the waters. He stills nature.
Mm.
The demoniac of anyone in the world, that man had no peace.
Mm.
And, Jesus brought peace into that man's life. And then the sick woman, she had a lot to be stressed about, real stress. And Jesus brought peace to her life. And he always brings peace to the believers, to the people that have faith.
Very good. And bring it back to where we really should bring it back, that in Jesus there is comfort. The Holy Spirit is a comforter. And taking time for that which is most beneficial. Is exercise good? Yes. We already said it's a common sense, well, maybe it's a stress reliever, okay? But the ultimate stress reliever is casting your cares upon the Lord, for he cares for you. Very good. Prayer requests this evening, we'll pray.